the funny thing is this man is built like a Walmart battle orc.
Oh, I can.
All right, we are live from the center of the earth. What's going on, Trap House? Tonight we've got the homie Red Devil on the show. He's also known as Snake Eater 36 on Twitter. This guy needs no introduction, but I'm going to try anyway. But he's an Army SF guy, combat diver, commander in the 2021 Possum Wars, and once voted to be man most likely to catch COVID-19 and put COVID-19 in quarantine for 2 weeks. What's going on, Red Devil?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Thanks for coming on, dude, and putting up with my autism.
Oh, no problem at all. I got a little bit of that myself.
But yeah, so this is, I think last week we had your buddy Brink on.
My boy.
Yeah, and he put on a magnificent display. I think he might be nominated for an Oscar this year for that monologue on that last episode.
I mean, the monologue. I don't know what was more impressive, the monologue or the legs.
It's true. I'm pretty sure he can open up a can of pork and beans with his quads.
Yeah, like he needs to make an Instagram account and start squeezing watermelons for money.
Oh, instead of OnlyFans, only melons.
Oh, I'd pay money for that.
I am paying money for
right?
it. But he doesn't send me pictures.
Damn.
Oh man, but yeah, so I think this is episode 5 or episode 6 of my fledgling podcast. I can't officially call it a podcast because I'm still waiting for the government to approve my podcast license. So we're keeping it casual. We've got 10 questions I've sourced from Twitter per usual, but we can kind of let that conversation veer off into whatever parts of autism we want it to. So feel free to ramble. Feel free to just go on long ass tangents, dude. Like there's no time limit. Nothing like
Perfect.
that.
In long form.
Exactly. We've been buddies on Twitter for a while now, and it's always interesting to me whenever I hear people's voices when I've just been reading their text for like months or years or whatnot.
Right, and then after you hear their voice, you start reading those texts in their voice. Like when I met Brink, like I started reading, them in Brink's voice, and then when I heard Pickle, it was you just can't get that beautiful lisp out of your head. You know what I mean?
Dude, for real. Like his lisp is melodic.
It is.
He gets mad at me for talking about his lisp, but
it's like an angel's tickling my ears.
Oh shit, we love you, Pickle. Please don't beat me.
Right.
All right, so cool. Let's go ahead and jump in before Pickle kicks in my door. So our buddy High Tech Redneck. That's our first question. It's coming from him. His first question is: if you love swimming so much, why weren't you a Navy SEAL?
Oh, that's because my dad was a Green Beret.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want to say I necessarily grew up in the community, but my dad was a Green Beret, and so kind of growing up, like that was what I wanted to do. And when I was swimming, I realized that combat diving was a thing, and so I was like, well, why don't I be a combat diver and a Green Beret at the same time? And obviously, because I was joining around the time of 9/11, it was just kind of like you got to read some of the early books of the invasion of Afghanistan, and then later on Iraq kicked off, and it just kind of stuck with me. It was something I always wanted to do, and so it was kind of ended up that way, thankfully.
What? So this is something I'm a civilian. I don't know much about the military or military life.
Yeah.
I grew up on the East Coast, so we had the SEALs, one of the SEAL teams out there. So walk me through what a combat diver is and what that entails.
Yeah, so
that sounds badass as shit.
So we go through some of the same maritime training as the SEALs do, specifically like the underwater train up. But it's a 6-week course in Key West. The Navy oversees kind of like the safety and the diving rigor for it, and then the first 2 weeks is kind of the pool week where they send you through a litany of tests to kind of prepare you for like the future parts of the school. So you have to tie a certain amount of knots while holding your breath underwater. You've got to ditch gear. You've got to take a breath. You go back down and get the gear. You do 50 meters underwater. There's a few tests that they put you through. So they prep you that for 2 weeks, and then they do what's called one-man comp, where you put a tank on your back with a open, like a scuba tank, basically. It's open system, so you're blowing bubbles, and they black out your mask, and then they beat the trash out of you in a pool until you end up like they'll pull the regulator out of your mouth, they'll tie it in a knot on your manifold, and you have to untie it and put it back in your mouth, and they do this until you basically pass. And the pass is there's a special knot they put on your back, and you've got to figure out how to either untie that knot or ditch your gear.
Damn.
Yeah, so when you finish that, you're halfway through, and that's kind of the milestone of where you know you're going to make it, because then you get the weekends off, you can go drink, like it becomes kind of more fun after that. But the first 3 weeks, they just demolish you. You run 6 miles every morning. Like, I mean, I was a really fast runner, but I lost most of my muscle mass there. And then after those 3 weeks, you go on what's called closed circuit, which is the oxygen recycler. It's a rebreather. And then you do like the cool stuff. So you'll do an infill at night where you're not making any bubbles. You're all blacked out. And you have like a set of missions that you go conduct at the end of the phase, where you link up with indigenous personnel and, basically like establish a guerrilla, like a guerrilla team or a guerrilla base. And so like the hardest thing to explain is like, okay, yeah, what is the difference between you and SEALs? And it's our capability as divers is a method of infiltration. So we hop off the boat and we swim up to the shore, and then like that's kind of where our departure is. For SEALs, I mean, they put mines on boats, like they should be, or most of the time, like they are the guys that kind of own the waters. MARSOC a little bit as well. And then like the other counterpart to it is if we go to a host nation country that has a maritime element, we can train them in maritime operations. So it's basically a feather in your cap, but within our community, being a diver's held on pretty high prestige just because the school is so difficult and there's not a lot of guys that want to do it. And so we kind of, I don't know, we just kind of flagrantly throw our dive bubble around, and it's good bragging rights.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love that course. Like I would 100% do it again.
That's crazy. So how long is it in total? You mentioned like the real hard parts, like the first 3 weeks.
Yeah,
but
so
how long does it run for?
It's 6 weeks total, and it usually goes up and down in terms of length because I want to say, let's see, it would have been 2010. There was a captain that died in pre-scuba, so the diver community is extremely aggressive to the point where like there's been some incidences where people haven't had a lot of oversight and training, and some dudes will die, and then there will be an investigation, and they'll have to move parts of the training that was held at like an organic unit to the dive school. So when I went pre-scuba, wasn't really a thing. You just kind of got ready, and then they trained you at dive school to do all these things. And then sometimes they say, okay, you guys can teach your soldiers how to tie these knots underwater and do drown proofing and all this other stuff. And then eventually somebody gets hurt, and then the schoolhouse kind of takes that control back to hold it at their school. So it's 6 weeks, but it can get pared down to about 5. And I don't know if it's 4 now, but I'm pretty sure it's about 5.
Damn, that's wild.
Yeah.
So was there ever a point when you were going through that where like you doubted yourself? Like, I don't know. I was feeling pretty good up until now.
I played water polo and I swam, and I have been unconscious underwater and had to get pulled out 2 times. And so I'm familiar with like passing out underwater. The scariest time was, so they do a train up for one-man comp where all the students are in the water, they black out your mask. You have to hold your hands up over your head and wait for somebody to come and shark you, where they basically take the regulator out of your mouth, tie it up, and then you have to untie it. The scary thing though is like you have no awareness, and so you can't see your air. Your mask is blacked out, and you're waiting for some dude to just like come up and touch you, and like you're doing that for 30 minutes in the water. It's not like, you get 5 minutes, you come up, you take a breath. Like you're underwater for 30 minutes waiting with a blacked out mask for hopefully somebody to come get you, and you don't know if they're looking at your air, and you don't know if you know what I mean? And so like all this stuff goes on in your head, and then finally, and there were a couple times where it was like, I don't want to really die right now. so, so like that was the one time where I was like, holy shit, I'm going to panic. And you just end up breathing yourself down and kind of relaxing. But there are inadvertently every iteration, there's somebody that loses their shit and tries and either bolts for the surface or just quits or whatever. I think we ended up losing about 60 or 70% of our class.
Damn.
Oh yeah. It's usually a pretty high attrition rate.
What's the longest you can hold your breath for?
When I was at dive school, it was 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
Jesus.
There was a guy that almost got 3 minutes there, and he ended up actually like no shit passing out underwater.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can top that right now. All right, let's start this.
Right.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
And he's passed out.
Oh god. Oh man. I quit smoking many years ago, but I started smoking when I was 12 years old. My lung capacity probably shit.
I mean,
I boxed growing up,
okay.
and like the way to beat me was to stretch me beyond 2 rounds because my lungs would
just gas you out.
Exactly.
Yep.
So like I'm 6'1", and like my style of fighting is like infighting. So I'm a tall guy, and that's kind of rare with a tall guy. Like usually tall guys want to keep you at distance, and it's the short, stocky guys that want to get close. Well, because I knew my lung capacity, I was the tall guy trying to get up in your shit, trying to get in with you.
Nice.
So, yeah, you just had to stretch me out, and you beat me.
You build it at that school, but I mean, for training, like I had a team sergeant that used to be an instructor there, and so we had like bite valves that you could change the threshold on, and he'd make you do wind sprints with these bite valves, and it was like breathing through like some sort of restricted oxygen mask. I mean, like I got punished for probably about 4 or 5 weeks before I went. And so when I went there, it was like, oh man, this isn't nearly as bad as what this guy had me do. This isn't bad at all.
That's badass, dude.
It
So
was a good time.
Today I learned that combat diving is a little bit more involved than wrestling with dudes underwater in
Right?
Speedos.
It's
like
still pretty close though.
when I saw the combat diver, I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. Maybe I'll sign up. And I was like,
There's what was it? History Channel it used to be called Surviving the Cut. They had a series. They actually had like Ranger School and Sniper School. They had a dive school too. And one of my guys on my team was in it. And it's a pretty good primer if people are interested in like knowing what it's all about. Check out, Surviving the Cut for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna Google that real quick and tee that up for later. Surviving the Cut.
Yeah, DM me and let me know what you think after you watch it.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah. It's interesting, like because like I didn't intentionally become friends with a lot of USF guys.
We just happened along.
Yeah, like I remember it was I grabbed dinner with one of our mutuals down at San Antonio, and he was like, "You have no idea who you're interacting with on Twitter."
A bunch of sociopathic, maniacal.
Yeah, and he was like, "It's funny as shit because like you're just like shooting the shit with these people who I know in real life."
Yep.
Oh man, it all started. I think it all started with my buddy cop relationship with Clay like 3 years ago.
Oh man, well, and what's really funny too is I followed Clay Martin for a while, and I used to watch his YouTubes, and I actually have a really good buddy that I used to go shooting with, and he's like, "Do you know who Clay Martin is?" I was like, "Who do I?" And I was watching a YouTube video of Clay Martin, and one of my fellow Green Berets was like, "How do you know Clay Martin?" And I was like, I follow him off Twitter and I watch his YouTubes. He's like, I was in third group with Clay and we used to do all sorts of crimes together. I was like, that sounds like Clay Martin. Like Clay Martin is like he's like the sleeper underlord of special forces. Like everybody knows him. And if you don't know him, you know somebody that knows Clay Martin.
That's awesome, man.
Love him.
Dude, yeah, yeah. I didn't even know. Like, I was just like, oh, he's got a cool picture of him shooting a gun off of a rooftop. I like this guy. And then like through over the course of the years of me and him talking, like I was like, oh, so this dude's actually like a big deal.
Oh, huge deal. And the funny part is like he, obviously he'll tell people, he's got some experience, right? Or it's like if somebody will talk a little bit of shit, then he's like, hey man, I've got some experience, like I know what I'm talking about. But he doesn't really say like what he's done, but Clay Martin's done quite a bit.
Yeah, he's super humble guy.
Yeah.
Like me and him, like we didn't even ever talk about like it wasn't like me like fanboying over like tell me stories, Uncle Clay. It was like literally us just like shit posting and making fun of people. Like I was just like, oh, he's just this dude. He likes guns too. I like him.
Right.
All right, cool, dude. Well, let's go on to question 2. Our buddy Huey Lewis wants to know if you could make it so that you would never miss another shot for the rest of your life, but in exchange you have to trade bodies with Lucas from T-Rex Arms. Would you do it?
If all I'm doing is trading bodies, and I don't have to be Lucas, okay. Because then I'll eat as much and lift as much as I possibly can. I'll buy new pants. I'll do some curls. Yeah. Okay, I think I could do that. I think so. It'd be hard though.
So for those of you who don't know who Lucas is, Lucas also came up in the Brink episode. So Lucas is the owner and sole proprietor. I don't know if it's an LLC or whatnot, but he's the owner of T-Rex Arms, a popular YouTube channel where, he's admittedly a good shooter, like, right? Like, competitively wise.
Like, you got to give credit where credit's due. He's not a bad shot.
Mm-hmm. The hate comes from.
Yeah, the hate comes from just the application of it, right? Like, if I threw up a bunch of stuff in my backyard and I rehearsed, 9 or 10 times and then filmed me shooting it, it'd look pretty good too. And then, his practice score stuff isn't too bad either. I like, he's not bad at IPSC or whatever he's doing, right? With I don't think he's doing 3-gun anymore. Like, it seems like he's really good at running on rails, so he can engage and shoot targets on rails in kind of like a rehearsed fashion. But I know he can't carry a 200-pound dummy, and his I don't want to say tactics because he says he doesn't teach tactics, but then he teaches tactics. His tactics are awful. But that's just an army guy thing, right? So when you see like civilians do the same thing, you get frustrated. But I guess what frustrates me the most with this guy is just how garbage it is when he's like running in front of doors and completely silhouetting himself, and it's like it intimates coolness, which if for the untrained eye, it's just so it looks cool, and then when you sit and analyze like what he's doing, it's like this isn't cool at all. This is terrible.
This boy gonna get himself shot.
This boy gonna get killed in the streets.
Yeah, like I used to watch his YouTube channel like a couple of years ago. That's actually one of the benefits of having started a YouTube channel. I no longer watch gun YouTube channels,
right?
And because I'm all about that validation now,
right?
I'm not trying to validate these other.
Gotta get mines.
Exactly.
And
go ahead. I used to watch his shit and like I was just like, oh, it looks cool. But like the thing that turned me off with him is just kind of like just his attitude, really. Like he's just super serious all the time. And I'm just like, man, I just want to have fun, dog. Like,
I just want to go shoot some steel. Well, and I used to watch Grantham too. And actually, I watched Grantham in terms of like almost like for reviews. So when I was looking at optics, I'd kind of watch some of his stuff. But it's all kind of devolved into just like mag dumping a gun, right? And it's like, I guess if that's your thing, that's cool. But like, I'm never gonna buy a Thompson, so watching some dude mag dump a Thompson is like, I guess it's cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that was cool in 2010.
Yeah. It's there's definitely some good stuff that he has, and then to your point, like I guess Bakken's attitude just, I mean, it was the same thing over and over. And then it was like, I don't want to say like the know-it-all attitude, but every time you watch a YouTube, it's like, it just becomes a little bit insufferable after like the first 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's see. All right. So the next question's coming from our friend Midwest Toad. He wants to know, what's the best advice / mantra you've ever been given, and how did it change you?
Man, best advice mantra. Um, I'd probably say not related to the military was probably my dad basically just saying it doesn't matter what people worship, it doesn't matter, like what orientation you are, like just be a good person, like just be a, like do the right thing, do like defend the truth and be a good person. And I think that's kind of stuck with me. For the military, it has been, I'll trust you until you fuck me.
Mm-hmm. Dude, in the private sector, whenever I get interviewed for in the private sector at other companies and shit, like they always ask me like what my management style is, and I'm like, I trust you till you give me a reason not to.
Yeah. It's worked really well thus far in my civilian career for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. And also, as a follow-up question, like, what's it like growing up with a dad that's a Green Beret?
It really wasn't bad at all. I mean, I don't want to even say it was bad. Like it was interesting. So he was he was not active for very long when I was in. I want to say he got out of like a few years after I was born.
Mm-hmm.
But like he never really talked about it very much. I mean, he had just he got in right at the end of the Vietnam War, and so he didn't really see a lot of combat, but I think he did a lot of training exchanges, and so he got to kind of do his Green Beret thing. But like it wasn't as probably defining as it is for me. But I mean, he has his beret in the bedroom, and he's got some really funny stories about when they kicked Zodiacs out of C-130s and they burned into the ocean in Hawaii. And I mean, I met a couple of his friends when I was growing up, but it was, I mean, I don't know. Like, unlike me, he was a very even-handed and like kind of mild-mannered guy, and so it was like it wasn't like living with Superman. It was like living with Clark Kent. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
That's
And
cool,
then
man.
later on, the interesting part was like later on down the road, um, when I did ROTC, a couple of the instructors were retired Special Forces NCOs, and they're like, "I know your name. I know your dad. I was with your dad on a team." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah. Go tell your daddy that Johnny says hi and to give you a slap." And so I told my dad, and he's like, "Man, I haven't talked to those guys in 15 years." And so like you see like the community, the community remembers a lot of its people, even though like they don't really like parade the community like, some guys do, like I do. But yeah, I mean, it's like any other middle American family, I guess. Just dad knew how to snap your neck in the middle of the night.
he just didn't flex it on YouTube.
No, he really didn't.
Oh man, that's really cool, man. Like that's a common observation I've made talking and being friends with a lot of y'all. It's like y'all just super down to, like, it's sometimes I wonder like if y'all realize how much like the rest of the public idolizes y'all, because y'all are so fucking down to earth. It's
Ugh.
wild.
Now you're gonna make my ego grow. I would honestly say that the more humble guys within the community are definitely the NCOs, because I think officers kind of we have that ego of where we have to put our, we have to be the face of the team. We got to put ourselves out, and the best stories, the best experiences that get written about or talked about are definitely on behalf of the NCOs in the community. I mean, I could go on a huge laundry list of like, just the stuff that has happened in the past, 20 years, and the heroism of a lot of the NCOs in the regiment that you never get a chance to hear about. It's pretty impressive. And it's like, you end up realizing you kind of walk amongst giants in some arenas when you go to like group ball or whatever. I mean, there's dudes on Twitter. I won't throw their name out, but like they served on the same team as a Medal of Honor winner. Like, and they were in the activity when this individual received the Medal of Honor. So like, there's a lot of guys on Twitter that have a wealth of experience, and I mean, the saddest part I think is it's going to get lost, kind of like the last World War I and World War II generations do as they die off. And I would implore any of these guys to write a book and talk about it. If you are listening, you know who you are.
Pickle?
Right? Yeah, Pickle. So there I was.
sipping on a Coors Light.
Like, staring down the horde from my Humvee with my Mark 19, just still waiting for him.
Come to Pickle.
Come on and get some. I'm dead.
Oh, dude. So, have you met Pickle in person?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure I speak to him and I can imagine the type of person he is.
Yeah.
So like, I'm terrified to meet him in person now because I think he's just gonna mollywop me.
I met him in person once, and we hung out with Knot and one of Knot's buddies. And yeah, Pickle is the absolute opposite of what I was expecting. Like, because he was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, in person, like I'm like really nice. I'm like the friendliest person you'll ever meet. So I was like, okay, so he's gonna be the opposite of who he is on Twitter.
Right.
And then I meet him like, nope, you're pretty much the exact same person.
You are you.
Nah, he really is a good guy. We just enjoy giving him shit. And that motherfucker could take a joke, to his credit, because this lisp joke's been going on for 4 weeks now.
The first time I saw it, I was absolutely dying. I was like, oh my god, I gotta get on this. It was that's the nice part about the military too, is you usually tear each other apart and nobody takes it personally, which is awesome. You just shit on your friends, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him out, and we're gonna do some long range shooting, and
nice.
See how he does at 700 yards.
Ooh,
yeah,
I bet he'd do okay. I think he'd do all right. I got faith in you, Pickle.
I believe in him. And while we're actually on the topic of Pickle, he is the subject of question number 4. Our friend Medic Plastic, who I'm also friends with off of Twitter, he wants to know, how do you feel about being on my show before Senor Pickle?
Well, I mean, it's nice because I get the first word, but then also after that, Pickle can talk as much trash as he wants afterwards. So I don't know. I think I'm coming in at a disadvantage, but we'll see. I think Pickle's gonna start ripping people new booty holes when he gets on.
When I finally bring him on, he's gonna just kick me off the show, and it's just gonna be him ranting for 3 hours.
I'm gonna tell y'all something.
Y'all have been slandering me for months.
I've had enough of it. This will be over.
Yeah, dude. I'm actually gonna do a Pickle episode where I'm just gonna like show him logging on, and then I'm gonna cut the episode immediately. Oh man. All right, so question number 5. Wahaz guy, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. He wants to know what your thoughts are on people who purchase tactical gear from Wish.com.
Oh, I'm sure this is basically just like a time to start trashing on the pores.
Go for it. Full send.
So, man, I guess it just begins with like shit in, shit out. So you can definitely buy some mid-tier stuff and put some mid-tier equipment in your rifle, if we're just talking like rifle stuff, and get a pretty decent 100 meter zero and like maybe shoot out to 200, 300 and be okay. Like if you're just looking at putting, paper on targets, that's probably not a bad idea. Like Demp has a PSA, and I do not doubt that that dude runs it really well. Like not even kidding. But like, don't buy like Spike's Tactical or Anderson or anything like that. It's just like made out of like Chinese pot steel. And if you want to spend money on some things, like don't spend money, or don't don't be cheap on optics and don't be cheap on guts. Like, get a good bolt carrier group, get a good barrel, get decent optics, because after a while they're gonna end up falling apart. They're gonna shit the bed, and then you're gonna spend more money on buying the same cheap stuff, and it's just gonna do the same thing over. So like, I don't know, save your pennies for a little bit and get something that's like, mid tier or a little bit higher, so you have a quality rifle. And the fun part is, like, find some friends within your area and go do a competition. Go do like a run and gun, go do like a pistol competition, go do something so you can like see if your rifle works. Like, it shoots, but go see how you can manipulate it, and or if it's a pistol, go see how you can work your pistol, because like, it's fun to be able to kind of experiment for your setup, and it's really fun to see how you can improve engaging targets after, like, a 3-mile run or whatever. I mean, so don't buy stuff off Wish, especially plates. Dear God. Like, I saw that post where some dude was shooting plates that he bought off Wish. And then we got into a long argument about like why you should not wear steel plates. And it was just like, oh my God, we've had 2 decades of war. We need to get away from using steel plates and buying things off Wish. People, the internet is a thing. We got to use that.
I'm over here stroking my Heritage Rough Rider.
Say what?
Oh God! Red Devil, I'm gonna need you to turn your camera on for a second.
Yeah.
I'm almost there.
Show me what you got.
Oh man, yeah. What's the most expensive piece of gear you own?
Dual tube nods.
That'll do it.
I've got some dual tube nods that a wonderful man who runs Weapon Outfitters.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's who I got it from. And I'm not plugging anybody, but
I'm plugging them.
I'm not plugging anybody, but I'm plugging somebody. Like, if you have questions, this guy usually knows the answer, and he can tell you what you need. In terms of like if you're building something. I really enjoy builds, so I usually never buy like a full off the shelf rifle, but I mean, he can tell you, probably what a good idea to build is or what to get. And I mean, he's always selling Hodge stuff, which is usually like the top tier parts and rifle pieces. But yeah, he's one of the good ones, and he you definitely tell the guys like that take pride in what they do, and their history running that business has really built a really good, strong following. And I mean, he's always got some really good takes too on Twitter, so I appreciate him.
Yeah. I've bought a couple things off of him. I think I got a BCM angled grip from him.
Oh, nice.
A few months ago. Yeah, he went out of his way. Like, I think there was like a manufacturing delay or vendor delay, and like he went out of his way to look up my order and like email me because he knew me from Twitter, and I was like, damn dog, PSA never done that for me.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot of the same stories. I had a buddy that, basically bought a rifle laser from him, and it was coming late, and he was going to do a night shoot, and the owner Weapons Outfitter is like, hey, I'll mail you my personal laser so you can go to this night shoot. And I think it ended up getting canceled, but like, that's the type of person, that you look for in kind of when you're buying stuff like that. Like, I'll throw money that guy's way any day of the week. No problem. I actually think I just bought a DS100 Surefire cap from him.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Surefire Streamlight, is it worth the price difference?
Ooh, you know what? I'm a Mod Light guy.
Okay, yeah, Mod Light Master Race, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I usually do Mod Light just because I've actually had some issues with Surefire when I ran them on my kit in the Army. Like, I had some failure issues, and just the glass would get pitted and corroded from all the powder and the blowback from the rifle. And I really don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a name, because I feel like that's kind of what you're doing with Surefire. Yeah. Mod Light's really nice because you can put an IR head on it, you can put a different head, and you can kind of change the body. And so I've just been running those with a D-bow and then a magnifier on my kind of nighttime gun setup. So I gotta send you a picture. I've got a really sexy, like, not an IR, like a really sexy like NVG setup gun. Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
I'll
Send that to me, and I'll stroke my heritage Rough
send that
Rider.
goodness.
Yeah, I've got a Mark 18 that I'm putting, or a civilian Mark 18 that I'm putting a mod light on, and then I think I ordered another one to put on this new IWI 12 and a
Nice.
half inch that I put on. I see, I like building ARs is what got me into ARs, but like I think over the last 3 years I was just like, I'm not saving any money.
Right.
So I just started buying factory and just changing the stuff I care about, like BCGs, triggers, stuff like that. And now I'm just 3D printing ARs.
That's awesome. I need to get into that. I really haven't gotten into that enough. Like, I've got family that are really into 3D printing. Obviously, not like gun stuff, but man, like I like polymer 80 stuff, and I probably need to. It's just one of those things where like once you're in, it like consumes you.
Dude, it's a wormhole, man.
Oh, I can imagine.
So you've done a P80, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, cool. So I've done 5 P80s in the last 3 months. 3D printing guns, I've done 5 also.
Okay. Man, I need to get into that then. I've basically just I finished building the Mark 12 Mod H or whatever. And I got it, like, I'm the type of person that's like, now I need to get optics on it. Like, I've just got, so many different pans in the fire. It's like, I've got it. Let me finish this Mark 12 first, and then I'll start printing. And then once I start printing, I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to do another polymer 80. Yeah, it happens, man. You get the bug.
Yeah, I was just this last weekend, actually, I was speaking at the 3D printed guns in Bitcoin conference, and we had the first 3D printed gun competition also.
I saw a couple of videos. That's pretty slick.
Yeah. So I won second place in the competition, and I had 2 malfunctions on it. I mean, the technology, like, it's not perfect, but at the same time, it costs like 12 cents in filament to print your frame. And I was using one of Ivan's guns. Ivan lent me one of his guns, and to use for the match, because I snapped mine in half because of some it was all user error on my part. Like, my print settings were off, and that was part of what my talk was about. Like, this technology, like, you're gonna see, like, I showed a bunch of my failures, and I was like, look, this isn't an indictment of the technology. I am the weakest link in the assembly process. Like, it's because of me that this didn't work, not because these guns blow up in your hand. And yeah, it's fascinating. And like, I know you build guns and stuff too. Like, I feel like knowing how your weapon operates down to like the springs helps you understand how to clear malfunctions, how to manipulate the weapon. I don't know how true that is. That's how I feel. Maybe
it's definitely true. I mean, like, because if you feel like you're having a failure to feed, or you're having cycling issues, it's like, maybe when I was putting that gas block on, I did feel something a little bit funky, right? And so you can troubleshoot it beyond just having to take it to some smith, pay him $70, and he's like, "Yeah, brother, you just had to put your gas block on a little bit, give it with a rap of a hammer," like. And it's good to know, like, because after you build your first one, you're like, you kind of realize, maybe I should have put a Faxon barrel on it, and you do a lot of research, because after you shoot that gun, you're like, I built this, and this thing was hitting steel at 200. It's like, what can I do to push this out, right? Or like, what can I do to make a really cool CQB, pistol AR or whatever? And you end up realizing it's like, I can build these, better than what I want to buy. Or, if you just really want to go Gucci, then you just, you can make it, instead of just having to buy it. And then it's, it's kind of a piece of you, you own this thing that you made. It's kind of cool. And I think to your point with like the 3D printing, like Ivan's done an amazing job with, like, the technology. And it's like, I don't think we can ever out legislate this type of innovation. Nope. Like, after a while, it's like, I mean, you either have to have an argument of whether we're like going to outlaw screws and nuts and bolts, or we're going to have to accept the fact that, like, we're never going to be able to legislate innovation, because let's say polymer 80 goes away. Well, then it's going to be polymer 79, and then it's going to be polymer 50, and then it's going to be buy a block of aluminum and you have a mini CNC in your home. And after a while, it's like, well, what are we going to end up legislating other than just like people's innovation? And it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was the other side of the talk, like why I'm not interested in the gun rights debate anymore. And I think like one of the things I said was like Second Amendment's on the ropes right now because we assumed it was a debate to begin with. Like
Right.
it wasn't a debate. Like we brought data to a fist fight, and we're seeing the after effects of that. And like that's why I'm interested now in building systems and building institutions that are parallel to existing ones to make legislation irrelevant. Like you can try and do this, sure, but you're a moron if you think it's going to work.
Well, and it's interesting that that some of the states are basically making like gun havens, and it's like, I mean, I think the states have, kind of the right idea where it's like we're not gonna enforce this legislation, just try and stop us, right? Like, I think and I think the fact that there's an exponentially larger amount of firearms owners that have, that have come out of the woodwork over the past 2 to 3 years because of COVID also kind of sounds off how hard it would be to legislate it with all there's a lot of brand new gun owners that are that are in the world now, and it's going to be really hard to take people's legally owned property from them just because it's a little bit scary.
And they're just getting their first taste of that black tar heroin now.
Right. just you wait, girl.
Oh man. All right, cool. Question number 7 is coming from our lady friend, the Queen Naughty Thoughty. And she wants to know, has he ever won gay chicken?
Well, you don't ever lose gay chicken. Everybody wins gay chicken. I mean, you either give up or you like give up. Yeah, I win it all the time. That's an easy question to answer. I win it all the time.
What's the most outrageous thing you've done in gay chicken?
Oh boy. I mean,
here and narrator, and this is where this match was demonetized.
And this is where Red hung up. I think I ended up biting like a gummy bear off of a dude's nose. It's pretty tame. Yeah, I think I ended up biting like a gummy bear off a dude's nose. I've witnessed some fuckery. Like I've witnessed some terrifying gay chicken, and I think I've managed to avoid a lot of that because it would have been awful. I mean, like when you're in Fort Polk, Louisiana, waiting to go into the box for training, privates, 18-year-olds in the Army have nothing better to do, and then once a game of gay chicken happens, it's game over.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta suck a dick to make a point. What?
For real.
Oh man, they don't tell you that in grade school. I'll tell you that much. Oh man, all right, cool. Well, Joe761-92815, that is a terrible handle. He wants to know, what's the best training and tactics course open to civilians, and in your opinion, what are the best shooting drills?
Best tactics courses. So if you are a civilian, there's a course called DARC, DARC. And it's ran by assaulters from Special Forces, and I want to say they probably had a few CAG guys at one time or another, maybe. There are a lot of businesses that sell firearms, or not firearms, but parts, like Weapons Outfitter goes, and so it's primarily for law enforcement, but they have some civilian classes. And they teach you proper room entry. They teach you some demo stuff. And then they have some like flat range classes as well. If it's something you want to get into in terms of like banging open doors and getting into, kind of simulated firefights, that's probably a really good one. I don't know if this next one exists anymore, but there was one called Guerrilla Tactics. It was owned by Aaron Baruga, who was a first group guy. And he taught a lot of honestly, he was kind of one of the educators for me when I was looking at shooting competitions and tactically shooting and thinking about like tactics from an Army level. So he got really into like why you don't stand behind a car and shoot. Cause at the time, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, people were using cars as cover and were absolutely getting shredded. And this guy was talking about, you hide behind the pillar, you engage, kind of left and right of the pillar, and it's some of the best courses are on a flat range, and then some of the other really good courses don't really have you shoot a lot, but they teach you to move, and they teach you to move with your weapon really well. So Guerrilla Tactics. Let's see what else. Darcy. If you look at like kind of your, it's hard because there's a bunch of different instructors that go from like state to state, and they'll travel, and you can kind of see them on Instagram and kind of judge who they are. But usually there's at least one or two good SOF instructors that are in your state. You just kind of have to look at their bona fides and then ask around. So if you're interested in a shooting course, DM me or DM another SF guy or something else, and we can probably point you in the right direction depending on your state. And the best shooting drills are the ones you find online. Like there's one called El Prez, which is a pistol drill. There's some really good IPSC like pistol competition drills that you can do. And all you got to do is just Google it, and you can. I mean, if whatever you want to do, if you want to improve draw time, there are pistol drills that improve draw time. If you want to improve your the beep to your engagement time with your rifle, they have those drills online. So it's an easy Google. And if anybody's got any questions, I'm usually available on Twitter. Just DM me, and we can talk about what we're trying to set you up for. I'll tell you right now, I can shoot a rifle. I can kind of shoot a pistol. I can give you some drills, but there's also some competitive shooters that follow me that can probably give out some really good advice to you on drills.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question.
Sorry, that was a long diatribe.
No, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, what was it? I think my entry point into, so like most people's entry point to like the gun social media world is usually Demolition Ranch or Hickok 45.
Yep.
For me, it was Pat McNamara, actually.
Oh, Pat Mac.
Yeah, Blaze Ops.
So extreme.
And one of yeah. And I mean, he as I learned more, like I kind of felt, like I said, I kind of stopped watching all gun social media type stuff. But one instructor that he's friends with that's been on my short list to try and get a class with is I think it's DCM Consulting, I believe. I've been trying to catch them when they're in Texas, because they're here like maybe once every 3 months. It's interesting. It's kind of like a traveling circus, how this circuit works.
It really is. And man, and you just jogged my memory. There is a Marine that lives in southern Utah, like in Moab, and he's got this really trippy range that butts up against like some plateau mountains. I can't remember the name of his business, but he does like long to mid shooting and maneuvering. I can't even remember his name. Dang it! But if you can find his name, check out his YouTube videos. He's got some really good stuff, and he is an instructor as well. So yeah, and it's such a large market, and it's still getting filled with kind of like the right people. Because originally it used to be just like mall ninjas and theatrics, and it wasn't based in like any experience. I want to say within maybe the next 5 years, we'll probably see a lot of veterans with this serious amount of experience coming out and kind of like trying their hand at teaching, and it'll kind of push a lot of the BS to the bottom again.
So there's no like five finger death punch of the shooting world?
No, I mean, I'm sure. I can name some instructors that are very much like that, but I don't want to give them any more airtime.
Oh man. Well, Lucas jumps in and crashes my podcast. I want all the smoke. All right, second to the last question. What's your favorite war story?
Gosh, man.
Personal or anyone else's?
Personal war story. All right, so I was in the 101st in Iraq, and we used to love doing helicopter assaults everywhere we went. And so like you get on a helicopter at night, you'd go hit a house, you'd bag the dude up, and then you drop him off at the bigger base, and then you'd fly back home, and you go to sleep. We did this for Man, we did it for a week, and we would do it every month. So for 1 week, you'd get these birds, you'd go do your thing, and then you kind of go on ground patrol or whatever for the other 3 weeks. So there's one time when we're in a Chinook and like a CH-47, and everybody's got like the guys with the machine guns are going to be the first ones out because we didn't know what type of an area we were getting into. So like we push those guys out, they lay down, they kind of like secure the area so everybody else in the helicopter could get out and do their thing. Well, the aircrew told us that that they couldn't land because we were kind of in like this weird little field. And so they're like, it's 1 or 2 feet. So just go ahead and jump out. Well, it was actually like closer to 10. And the first machine gunner falls out and jams his machine gun almost to the feed tray in this like mud pit.
Oh, fuck.
As that happens, everybody else is falling out. So it's like this helicopter's just shitting soldiers out. Pop, 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 pop. And like we realize that like it's not just a field, it's a field that's been irrigated, and so it's got like poop water everywhere. Like dudes are just absolutely covered in it. And guys are like, you can just hear the sucking noises of them pulling the machine guns out. And so we get all organized. It takes like 20 minutes. It's super loud. Like we've completely blown like any security and like surprise that we have. We get up to the house and we bag the guy, and the dude is literally just like laughing at us because the entire time he was watching. The guy that we were actually looking for wasn't even there that night, and so we end up just getting his dad, and he like he was just watching these dumbass soldiers fall out. So we took him and asked him some questions, found out what had happened, and like we had to get back on this helicopter. So we had to trudge back through this shitty water, get back on this helicopter, and fly back. And it was like, the next 2 weeks we ended up having to clean weapons. I ended up burning my uniform because it was just so disgusting. I mean, it was bad. So
Oh, God. Oh, dude. So how deep was it when y'all jumped in?
I mean, I was
10-foot drop.
Yeah, it was a 10-foot drop. I was to my knees. I mean, like, and I'm about 6 feet tall, and it was to my knees. And like the first machine gunner, like I thought he had lost his machine gun because it was so deep into this muck. It was disgusting. Yeah, so that's like one of those. Anytime I feel like I've got it bad, I just think about like when I was in that shit water. And the funny part too is we end up going. So we used to go to this village like every week or every other week and talk to people. We talked to the mayor. Like we had Iraq was interesting because we actually had a really good relationship with a lot of the people that weren't terrorists there, at least in the area that we were in. And we would go to like a grape field that the mayor owned, and we just chill out in this grape field. And like, dudes just kind of relax and drink water or whatever. And we never ate the grapes until one day, like a handful of my soldiers were like, hey, these grapes look pretty ripe. Like these are good. And not realizing that it was irrigated with this like shit water. So they eat it. We get back in the in the Humvee, and like it's probably about a 30 or 40 minute drive back to where our base was. And I didn't like stopping on the side of the road because I'd seen too many like the YouTube videos of dudes getting out and just getting nuked after they pee. It's like I'm paranoid about that. So my gunner is like, "Hey, sir, I really gotta go." I was like, "Hey, bro, just pee in this Gatorade bottle." He's like, "I don't have to pee," and he's like, it's not gonna come out good." And I was like, all right, hold on 1 second. So I like stop in the road and I call my sergeant and I'm like, "Hey man, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't want to get off on the road. Like, I want to keep going." He's like, "Just have him shit in an MRE bag." So like, I've got this guy moving his bowel like right by my head in an MRE bag because of these grapes. And after that, it was just like, all right, you get indoctrinated in the military after you see, so many bowels being moved in front of your face, and then having to deal with shit water and everything else. It takes a lot of the sexiness out of being a combat arms guy, but it also makes for really good and interesting, funny stories, and kind of builds that that perspective in your life.
That's fucking wild. Oh man, the closest thing I have to that is in third grade. I had to have the school bus stop so that I could use someone's house bathroom. But I had the luxury of going inside of a house.
Right.
Oh man, yeah, you know, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Right. And sometimes you don't have a choice, and you're just blowing your back out right next to someone's face.
That's like the perfect time to start a game of gay chicken.
Oh, right. Like, hold on, let me help you out, bro.
Oh, it only hurt for the first centimeter. All right. What last question, and we're going back to the pickle. He wants. I forget who. Oh, damn! I didn't write down the person who asked this. But anyway, so someone wants to know if you and Pickle were to meet in the octagon, who would walk out?
I mean, I'm just gonna say Pickle, like only because Pickle's an NCO, and I know NCOs will usually put in more work, and will be damned if they're gonna let an officer like beat that ass. So I would probably say Pickle would stomp me, and I also just don't want Pickle to stomp me. So like, I'm just throwing the the olive tree is like, no, sir, I'm gonna whoop that ass in that octagon. You're gonna get all 8 sides, and you're gonna get 2 more just for that.
Oh god. He's like, you better pray you get round the Rusi.
There ain't gonna be no jujitsu. I'm gonna be biting and punching.
Imagine Pickles saying jujitsu. Jujitsu.
Jujitsu. Mm-hmm. Put you in one of them triangle chokes.
And the funny thing is this man is built like a Walmart battle orc.
Oh, I can.
Oh god, it was nice knowing you. I'm dead,
right?
man.
Pickles will be like, I'm gonna find you, and then it's over.
Oh man, raised on corn and great value sausage.
Right. Pickles literally been baling hay his whole life. He's got lunch boxes for hands. He's gonna snap my fragile bones.
This man, nah. Oh man, at some point this inside joke needs to end, and I need to actually have Pickle come on this show.
Somebody's gonna end up dying, I think. Is that when Pickle's gonna end up killing somebody? It's like, all right, I think that's enough.
Yeah, I clocked it. He's gone a month without getting kicked off Twitter.
Really? I think that might be a record.
I think it is, man. I do too. It's God, he's going strong now, and he's building all this clout. Next thing you know, he's gonna have sponsorships with Fit Bunny Tea and AdamandEve.com.
Oh my god.
Oh, dude. All right, bro. Well, that's a wrap. Is there anything you want to touch on or anything like that before we?
Man, I can't really think of anything. Just stop posting poor rifles in my feed, and just stop being poor.
Stop being poor, people. There's this one dude who's always tagging me in shit he buys, and like he's like, "Who's Gucci now? Who's Gucci now?" And like, I'm just like, still not a thermal, dog.
Nope.
Oh man, well, so folks on YouTube are kind of discreet from the folks on Twitter. So where can the folks on YouTube find you?
I'm not on YouTube, but I'm on Twitter, and you can find me at SnakeEater36.
And what is a snake eater?
So a snake eater is like an old Vietnam reference to Green Beret. So like back when these dudes were in the bush for extended periods of time, like the reference was that they would eat snakes or whatever they could find. And so it's just something that I, picked up going through the Q course and being in the jungle and being in 7th group. And so I've just kind of kept that call sign.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it was great having you, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. See ya.